This is a story about ocean cruises, a topic that may conjure up visions of warm tropical destinations such as the Bahamas or the Virgin Islands. It's probably not surprising that the price of such cruises is at least partially tied to the weather, specifically hurricane season. As an example, I chose a 7-day cruise on a popular cruise line departing Miami bound for the Western Caribbean, including stops in Cozumel, Belize, and Grand Cayman Island. I picked middle-of-the-road accommodations and looked up prices at various times next year. The most expensive is in June at almost $1,200 per person. Then it gets progressively cheaper, only about $800 in August and less than $750 by October, in part because of greater risk of disruption from hurricanes. But the cruise I really want to focus on today sails where hurricanes are not a problem. It departed from Seward, Alaska, near Anchorage on August 16th and is due in New York City on September 17th, a 32-day cruise through the famed Northwest Passage, the Canadian Arctic, a route that used to be considered nearly impassable. About 1,000 passengers and 600 crew are aboard the luxury cruise ship Crystal Serenity. At 820 feet long with 13 decks, it's the largest cruise ship ever to make this trip. The least expensive ticket went for about $22,000, yet the cruise sold out in 48 hours, with thousands still on the waiting list. Here's a detailed map showing the itinerary of the Crystal Serenity, courtesy of the Washington Post. After departing Seward, the ship stopped in the Aleutians and then in Nome, Alaska. Next headed through the Bering Strait, across the Arctic Circle, then due east. Its first Canadian stop was in the remote Inuit village of Olakuktok in the Northwest Territories, population 400. Then last Monday, it was the hamlet of Cambridge Bay in Nunavut. Not an ice floe in sight, as temperatures in the 40s greeted visitors from the cruise ship, who used inflatable boats to come ashore in smaller groups. After one more stop in the Canadian Arctic, the ship will cross Baffin Bay and spend a few days exploring Greenland. From there, it's south through the Labrador Sea and eventually to New York City. This is the time of year for the climatological minimum in Arctic sea ice coverage, and warming in the Arctic has reduced that minimum coverage significantly from just 20 or 30 years ago. Still, the cruise is not without risk. There will be some ice, as recent satellite images of the Canadian Arctic show, and only about 10% of those waters have been carefully mapped. The ship has sonar and ice detection radar and is accompanied by the RSS Ernest Shackleton, a British research vessel with ice-breaking capability and 2 helicopters. But a catastrophic mishap would severely stress any potential rescue efforts. In fact, each passenger had to buy $50,000 in emergency evacuation insurance. Now, there are legitimate concerns about the environmental impact in this pristine part of the globe, with pollution emissions, the discharge of wastewater, and fuel spills at the top of the list. And with the Arctic expected to continue to warm, this cruise is just, if you'll forgive the pun, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to tourism in this part of the world. Our extended forecast is next.